from coming to all of these networking events, what have you learned from them?
Well, when I speak to people at networking events, I'm always trying to understand their pain points. What is the number one challenge keeping them up at night? What are they trying to achieve? And conversations usually revolve around lead generation and sales. I think 80% of people who go to networking events are looking for introductions to potential clients or prospects or investors or business partners. And that's a very common theme. The reason people go to networking events is to meet other people. So by definition, they are looking to meet other people to help them in their business. And most commonly, it's about finding clients or prospects they want to sell something to. And so really, every conversation I have at networking events, I'm trying to figure out who could I introduce to that person to make them more successful. So when I meet a new person in a big room of people, I'm working the room, I usually ask them, how could I help you? How could I make you more successful? Who could I introduce to you? What's your number one pain points? These are the typical questions I would ask. And so I've really realized over years and years of doing this, speaking to tens of thousands of people, that everyone's looking for introductions. And so the best way you can help other people is making some good introductions.
The reason why I called you today, because from some conversations that you had before, I've learned a lot of things from you. And you seem to be a super networker. And for someone who is wanting to become a really good networker and want to perform well, let's say, at networking events, what would you give them as tips? I'm thinking about some stuff that you told me, for example, such as you shouldn't come with a salesperson mindset, for example, and diving deeper into, for example, the psychology behind communicating with people and connecting with people and bonding together as well.
Observe quite a lot when you go to a networking event. You meet lots of people who are trying to sell you something. You meet an accountant saying, hey, do you need an accountant? Can I sell you my services? You meet a lawyer. Hey, are you looking for a lawyer? Can I sell you my legal services? Hey, I work in marketing. Do you want to buy my marketing services? And so that mindset when people go to networking events trying to sell you their service is the wrong mindset. That will always fail. Because the goal of a networking event is not to buy a bunch of services from other people or for you to sell your services. That's never going to work because people can smell that. You're trying to sell them something and they go into their defensive mode and try to run away as soon as they can. So instead of that, the important mindset to have is not to try to sell anything, but try to help other people. So if you go to a networking event, again, the questions you should ask is, how can I help you? What could I do to make you more successful? What introductions can I send to you? And that will be a complete different type of conversation than you trying to sell something to someone else. Because realistically, you're rarely going to meet customers at networking events, whatever you're selling. Typically, you're going to meet people who can open doors to other customers, introducers who can introduce you to other customers. So that's really what you should go with in terms of mindset, helping others, trying to have that giving mindset. And what you're going to get in exchange for that is build relationships and trusts and friendship even, and business partnerships. So really that's the whole mindset you should have. So I think that's the big one. The mindset is probably number one thing you have to focus on when you go to a networking event. Don't try to sell, try to help, try to listen, and try to be as generous as you possibly can. The second thing, which I think is really important, when you go to a networking event, you're going to get the same question 50 times, which is, what do you do? Right? Everyone is going to ask you, what do you do? Which is a normal question to ask at a networking event. So your answer to that question should not be random. You should think about the words you're going to say and the answer you're going to give every single time. And so first of all, the answer you give must be very short. I would say less than 7 seconds. The reason for that is I've been to so many networking events where people start speaking about them for like 3 minutes and people are completely bored off their face. And this happens all the time. You don't want to listen to someone 3 minutes before you even understand if there's any way you can work together or help each other. So really, when someone asks you, what do you do? Make sure your answer is less than 7 seconds. This is super important. And of course, they can ask you follow-up questions and you can expand after that, obviously. But your initial answer should be really short, precise, concise. Second of all, make sure your answer is adapted to the person asking that question. So for example, if you meet a lawyer and he's asking, hey, what do? You should answer that question for a lawyer, saying, hey, I help lawyers achieve this and this. Or I help, if you talk to a doctor, hey, I work with the NHS or doctors to do this and this. If you speak to a startup founders, hey, I work with startup founders doing this and this. So always try to adjust your answer to the other person. Now, of course, you can only do that if you already know who they are and what they do. So try to find out what they do before you answer what you do, right? So you can adjust your answer every single time. And then, yeah, I think play with it. Try to maybe memorize a few different answers about what you do and try it on different people and see how they react. So you see which one is the most successful in terms of engaging the person you're talking to. So imagine you work as a lawyer and someone asks you, what do you do? Instead of saying, I'm a lawyer, say, I help people earn shitloads of money from lawsuits or whatever. Try to find a funny way to say it, which is not the standard way you'd say it, right? So always try to find an interesting way to present yourself, and that will engage a conversation. So that's my second tip. My third tip is basic psychology. When you're at a networking event, you're trying to get an engaging conversation with people. You're trying to get them interested to talk to you. And that's really the same as if you're trying to pick up someone at a bar, right? You're trying to pick someone at the bar. The last thing you want to be boring. That's the last thing you want to do. So you have to be funny, engaging. You have to be a good listener. So these are basic psychology skills. And when you're at a business networking events, those skills are as important as in a bar or a club. You're trying to pick up someone. It's exactly the same. You need to get them engaged, interested. And so always smile, always have a positive mindset. Don't complain, be optimistic, be positive. These are things that are really going to stimulate people to speak to you. So really, back to basic psychology, try to seduce the other person because really it's all about seduction. When you talk to other people, you're trying to seduce them, not to fall in love with you, but to enjoy the conversation, to enjoy spending time with you.
I'm enjoying
this conversation, right?
I'm definitely enjoying this conversation.